Hello. It's an honour to talk to you at the launch of your summer exhibition. I've been given a sneak preview of your work, and I'd have to say that your presentations are much better than when my cohort presented all those many years ago. I can remember as clear as day coming to Cardiff for the first time for an interview. It was a wet January morning. Back then, we were called UIST, the University of Wales Institute of Science and Technology. And yes, we were the better of the two universities in this beautiful city. Armed with my portfolio, which I prepared after school and at weekends, because I was doing A-levels, further maths, physics and chemistry, I walked through those massive oak doors to Butte Building and walked up those stairs. And from what I can remember, it was quite an unusual interview because I had revised and read about many architects of the 19th and 20th century. I think I was interviewed by Bob Fowles. Many of you won't know him. But I remember that we spent most of the time talking about my rugby exploits. And then we flicked through the portfolio and talked about, what was happening at school. Anyway, cut long story short, I got a place. I'm pretty sure the A-levels helped, but I actually think they probably needed a winger as well. And it's interesting because I had many other offers, but I chose the Welsh School not just because of the course and the building, which I thought was pretty fantastic, but I was taken in by the castle across the way, the size of the city, it was small enough, you didn't need a car, and the quality of the rugby being played. So, in 1985, I arrived with my belongings and my bicycle to begin my architectural journey. I lived in Treherne Hall, which was at the top of Pennyland Hill. It isn't there anymore. Along my floor, we had fellow architectural students. Some of those chaps I'm still in touch with today, which is great. But what I do remember was that even with the international students, the school wasn't as diverse as it is now. So the improved diversity is a good thing. And during my 3 years for the first degree, we had a great time. We had fantastic trips to Amsterdam, to Barcelona, to Berlin, and the Brecon Beacons. And let's not forget St. Fagans. It was fantastic. And I must admit, I was extremely proud to become president of SORSA in my second year. And I was even more pleased to have played for the first 15 and still finished with a good degree. And then when I got my Part 1 in 1988, I managed to find a job pretty easily. We were at the height of the boom. But it's funny because by the time I completed my Part 2 and the universities had merged, and I was ready to take on the architectural world, we were in the midst of a global recession and jobs were extremely scarce. So for those few years, I worked in different fields until the right opportunity came along. But what I learned during that recession was that having studied architecture, as well as learning to design buildings, we developed the ability to solve complex spatial problems and the skills to effectively communicate them. I found out that I could turn my hand to pretty much anything. I also learned about my self-worth, and I refused to work for low or no wages. So I freelanced, worked for contractors, did odd jobs, became a small-time developer, and survived the recession. And while some of my cohort hung on, some were lost to other professions, but they've gone on to do amazing things, in the banking industry, as building contractors, teachers, lawyers, and general businessmen and women. Because during those times, yes, I was earning more money outside of architecture, but I promised my father before he passed away that I would make him and my mother proud, and I would never give up, and that I would qualify. So back in 1994, I completed my Part 3 under the aspiring Sarah Lupton. I know she's still there now. Well, I hope she is. And the soon to retire Stanley Cox. He was a legend. And with my life experiences and their tuition, I passed my Part 3 at the first time of asking. And really, since then, I haven't looked back. But I think that's probably because I love being an architect and I love the world of architecture. And it seems a long way for me to come, a South London boy from a state school. But I suppose it's all about believing in yourself, never giving up, and sometimes having to fight for what you really believe in and what you really want. And I think that all started here at the Welsh School of Architecture. Today, I'm a principal at HOK. It's a practice that I've been at now for the last 21 years. And during that time, I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate enough to design and deliver many buildings across the world. Hotels, offices, residential, research facilities, and court buildings, just to name a few. And in fact, after a fairly significant project in Whitehall, which took up 6 years of my life, I then was fortunate enough to work on the Francis Crick Institute. It's a biomedical research centre in St Pancras, London. So you see, those A-levels, those science A-levels, they came in handy at some point. Now, I've always wanted to design a building in Cardiff, and I've gotten pretty close. There's the new Crown Court in Carnarvon, well that's North Wales, I know, and then the new Magistrates Courts in Newport, and then we did the other one in Aberystwyth. And I suppose it's amazing the power that this little badge has at an interview. So if you do nothing else, make sure you get a Cardiff badge, because if you're in the interview and the person across the table is an alumni, you've got more of a chance of winning the project. Now, even though I'm not directly involved in it anymore, I was there at interview, and I'm extremely proud that we at HOK are soon to be handing over the translational facility, the translational research facility on Maindee Road. I mean, that new building will accommodate two world-leading institutes, the Cardiff Catalyst Institute and the Institute for Compound Semiconductors. Now, coming back to you guys, what does the future hold in store for you? As you graduate, you are being thrown into this period of uncertainty. You know, COVID-19. And the pressing matter on your minds is, where am I going to find a job? Firms aren't hiring. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's going to be difficult for the next few months. But I'm an eternal optimist. And I very much believe that this recession that has been brought about by the pandemic will be short-lived. So you still need to get your CVs ready. You need to get your portfolios prepared and put your best work in there, and you need to apply for work. You know, you've got to follow practices on social media, send them emails, DM them, be persistent. And I say this because when business and practices start looking for staff again, they will remember those who made the effort to apply when there wasn't anything going. And they will call you for interview. Now, when you do find work, I hope that you will find work in good practices. However, remember, if they're not good, remember your self-worth. Don't take something less, find another job, okay? And don't be afraid to do work outside the world of architecture. It'll land you in good stead for when you do get back into it. Now, if it wasn't for COVID-19, I'd like to think that you'd be worried about the climate emergency that the world is facing. And I'd like to think that as a future colleague in this profession, you'd be committed to becoming a sustainable designer. And I suppose, what does being a sustainable designer mean? Well, working for practices that sign up to the RIBA 2013 Climate Challenge would be a good start. Or better still, even if you do get a job and they're not, and they haven't signed up, press them to. Because actually, the climate challenge, it's important. And if you're chartered, the sort of things that you have to try and achieve, the 4 targets of being a chartered practice that signed up to it are, you know, you've got to reduce your operational energy demand by at least 75%, reduce embodied carbon by at least 50%, reduce portable water by 40%, achieve all core health and well-being targets. And that's just the firm. And then, you know, if you can do it internally, then you can pass that on to clients. Clients, it's going to be difficult for some of them. They may not see the benefit of this. It's not going to be easy, but it can be done, and that was demonstrated by the 2019 Sterling Prize winner, the Goldsmith Street residential project. Now, some of you may know that I am the chair of the RIBA's advisory group, which is called Architects for Change, and our role is to advise the RIBA on addressing areas of underrepresentation within the profession. So we've identified 7 key areas: social mobility, gender parity, BAME representation, LGBTQ plus communities, mental health and well-being, disability, and religion and belief. And we have it signed off at board level, and they are currently working up a budget to align with the RIBA strategic plan. As with other initiatives that are underway, it's all about the RIBA trying to become more representative of society. But we know that senior leadership in practice and academia needs to be more diverse. It isn't. Just look around you, you know? So we need to be more diverse at all levels. And it's not just ethnic diversity I'm thinking or talking about, but cognitive diversity, cultural, gender, sexual orientation, just to name but a few. As architects and designers, for me, how can we fully understand, appreciate, and design for communities across the world if we do not have a diverse workforce, if we do not have diversity in our working day? With recent events in the USA and those closer to home in Bristol, London, Cardiff, and other cities, issues of equality are now being addressed and understood, and apparently we're looking forward to put plans to try and address them. But, you know, what I can say is, again, you know, I'm hopeful this time. And it's interesting because I was comforted to read that the Vice-Chancellor, Colin Reardon, has started to discuss these very same issues with staff. Anyway, I want to congratulate you all in passing the year, and I wish you the very best as you embark on the next stage of your architectural journey. But when you become successful, have a think. Think about giving back. Going back into primary schools and to secondary schools. Give young people who do not look like you the opportunity to show their ability and to dream of becoming just like you. Thank you.